In October 2022, the Three Stripes logo faced its biggest nightmare. Adidas, a global giant with decades of dominance, watched helplessly as 8% of its annual revenue disappeared overnight. The collaboration with Kanye West, once hailed as the partnership of the century, crumbled into dust. But this wasn't just about losing Yeezy. The German brand was bleeding from multiple wounds that threatened to end its reign in sportswear. The crisis had been building for months before the Yeezy collapse. Russia's invasion of Ukraine forced Adidas to shut down 500 stores and walk away from 250 million euros in revenue. Meanwhile, in China, lockdowns strangled sales by 36%. Inventory piled up like unwanted baggage, surging 49% to nearly 6 billion euros. Factories couldn't ship products on time, freight costs exploded, and consumers in Western markets simply stopped buying. The company that once seemed unstoppable was now gasping for air. When Adidas finally severed ties with Kanye West in late October 2000, the decision came weeks too late. The rapper had worn a shirt promoting white supremacist slogans at Paris Fashion Week, then unleashed anti-Semitic rants across social media. While Nike swiftly cut ties with Kyrie Irving within days of his controversial posts, Adidas hesitated. For 3 agonizing weeks, the brand stayed silent, watching as 44 million people read headlines asking why they continued selling Yeezy products. The delay wasn't just bad publicity. It revealed something deeper. Adidas had become paralyzed by indecision, unable to act decisively when it mattered most. The financial damage was staggering. Profits plunged 83% to just 254 million euros in 2022. For the first time in 3 decades, Adidas faced an operating loss. 500 million euros worth of Yeezy inventory sat in warehouses with no clear plan. Some analysts suggested burning it for sustainability reasons, but that would trigger backlash. Selling it risked looking like the company was profiting from controversy. The brand was trapped in a nightmare with no easy escape. But the Yeezy disaster was only part of the problem. Under CEO Kasper Rorsted, Adidas had drifted away from its core identity. The man who came from consumer goods giant Henkel focused heavily on digital transformation and margin expansion. While the strategy looked good on paper, it hollowed out what made Adidas special. Innovation slowed. The connection to athletes weakened. Wholesale partners felt neglected as Adidas pushed aggressively into direct-to-consumer sales. The brand that once owned football culture now struggled to stay relevant in lifestyle markets. Critics whispered that Adidas had lost its soul in pursuit of quarterly earnings. By late 2022, the board knew change was necessary. They turned to a familiar face with an unconventional background. Bjorn Gulden, a former professional footballer who had spent years at Adidas in the 90s, was leading rival Puma through an impressive turnaround. In January 2003, he returned to Herzogenaurach, the small Bavarian town where Adidas was born. His mission was simple but daunting: save the company from collapse. Gulden arrived with no illusions about the scale of disaster waiting for him. Inventory levels were catastrophic. Discounts were destroying margins. Employee morale had cratered. The German media predicted years of struggle ahead. But Gulden saw something others had missed. Beneath the chaos, Adidas still possessed incredible assets: a roster of iconic products gathering dust, talented teams paralyzed by bureaucracy, and deep connections to sports culture that competitors couldn't match. The ingredients for success were already there. They just needed someone to unlock them. His first major decision came within 5 days of starting the job. The Samba, a retro football shoe from the 70s, was quietly gaining momentum among fashion-conscious consumers. Internal teams wanted to scale up production, but the previous regime had blocked the move, worried about oversupply. Gulden immediately reversed the decision. Production ramped up fast. What started as a few 100,000 pairs per month exploded into millions. The Samba became the hottest shoe of 2023, winning Footwear News Shoe of the Year. Suddenly, everyone from Harry Styles to everyday shoppers wanted a pair. But Gulden's changes went far beyond one product. He slashed bureaucracy and pushed decision-making down to teams closest to consumers. Under the previous leadership, Simple choices required multiple layers of approval. Now, teams had freedom to act quickly. The company that once took months to respond to trends could now move in days. Golden also cut the dividend and restructured management to signal that short-term financial engineering was over. The focus shifted back to product quality, athlete relationships, and brand credibility. The Yeezy inventory problem still loomed large. After months of deliberation, Golden made a controversial call: sell the remaining stock and donate portions to charity. Critics argued this looked opportunistic, but Golden believed destroying perfectly good products would be worse. The company sold through most of the inventory by mid-2004, generating €150 million, while putting the controversy to rest. It wasn't perfect, but it closed a painful chapter. Golden's next move was even bolder. He reconnected Adidas with its athletic roots. The brand had drifted too far into lifestyle, neglecting performance sports. Golden, a self-described sports romantic, reversed course. He leveraged relationships with football legends like Zinedine Zidane and rising stars like Jude Bellingham. The F50 and Predator football boots relaunched with massive campaigns featuring these athletes. Basketball got renewed attention with the Anthony Edwards signature shoe, which generated more buzz than any debut sneaker in years. Running innovations like the Adizero Adios Pro won races and broke records. Suddenly, Adidas wasn't just fashionable, it was winning again in sports. The terrace shoe trend became a phenomenon. Alongside the Samba, classics like the Gazelle, Campus, and Spezial flew off shelves. Analysts estimated these retro models would drive €1.5 billion in sales, nearly matching what Yeezy brought at its peak. But Golden learned from past mistakes. Instead of flooding the market, he carefully managed supply to keep demand high. Limited edition collaborations with designers like Yohji Yamamoto kept the shoes exclusive and desirable. The strategy worked. Retailers reported strong sell-through rates without excessive discounting. By October 2024, just 21 months after Golden took over, Adidas had completed one of the most remarkable turnarounds in recent corporate history. The company raised its revenue forecast for the third time that year, projecting 10% growth and operating profits of €1.2 billion. The stock price more than doubled from its lowest point. Investors who had written off Adidas were now scrambling to buy back in. The transformation wasn't just about numbers. Internally, the culture shifted. Employees felt empowered again. Teams that once feared taking risks now experimented with new ideas. Wholesale partners, burned by Nike's aggressive direct-to-consumer pivot, embraced Adidas with renewed enthusiasm. Foot Locker, which once ran 75% Nike, diversified its lineup with more Adidas products. The brand that had been left for dead was now stealing market share from its biggest rival. Golden didn't claim all the credit. He repeatedly emphasized that turnarounds require luck, timing, and effort in equal measure. The Samba trend was already bubbling when he arrived. Nike's struggles with inventory and distribution opened doors in North America. But Golden's genius was recognizing these opportunities and acting on them without hesitation. Where his predecessor had been cautious and slow, Golden was decisive and fast. That difference made all the difference. The comeback story isn't finished. Adidas still faces significant challenges ahead. North America remains weak compared to Europe, with sales growing much slower than the company needs. Nike, despite its current troubles, still generates nearly twice the revenue and won't stay down forever. The Samba trend will eventually fade, forcing Adidas to find the next big thing. China, once a growth engine, requires careful rebuilding after years of decline. And the global economy remains unpredictable, with inflation and recession fears still present. Yet Golden approaches these challenges with quiet confidence. He knows that sustainable success comes from staying focused on fundamentals: great products, strong athlete partnerships, healthy retail relationships, and decisive leadership. The company that lost control by chasing short-term gains has rediscovered what made it legendary in the first place. The three stripes are back on top because they remembered who they are. Sometimes the best way forward is looking back to your roots and having the courage to move fast when opportunity knocks. That's the lesson Adidas learned the hard way, and it's a lesson that saved the company from oblivion.